If you're looking for more horror outside of the mainstream, look no further than Unsung Horrors, a podcast about underseen horror movies. I'm Lance.
And I'm Erica. Every other week, we'll cover a horror movie with fewer than 1,000 views on Letterboxd. We'll even give you double feature recommendations to pair with the movies we discuss.
From gothic to shot on video, from slashers to comedies, from giallo to J-horror, we'll cover all the subgenres. So join us as we unearth these hidden gems of horror.
Follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, all at Unsung Horrors, available wherever you listen to podcasts. And part of the Someone's Favorite Productions podcast network.
Hello and welcome to Tumbleweeds and TV Cowboys. My name is Hunter. In this podcast, I'll be joined by a different guest each week to discuss a classic Western movie or TV show. I've been a fan of classic Westerns for as long as I can remember, and in recent years, they've become very nostalgic for me. I love the aesthetic, the tropes, and I love seeing different filmmakers' takes on them. At their best, they're incredibly entertaining, rewatchable, and some of my all-time favorite movies are Westerns. We'll mostly focus on Western movies made in Hollywood, but we'll also be covering spaghetti Westerns, and one thing I'm very excited to get into are Western TV shows. I've got some amazing guests coming on the show, film professors, historians, and podcasters. And Tumbleweeds and TV Cowboys is part of the Someone's Favorite Productions podcast network, and many guests on the show will be from other shows on the network. Thanks for listening.
Weirding Way Media.
Night, Mr. Walters.
You see that guy over there? Now, he's an actor. The guy on the phone, he's a prize fighter. Me, I'm a cab driver. I'm the only cab driver in this place.
Good evening and welcome to Night, Mr. Walters, a taxi podcast. I'm HP, your co-host, and with me, as always, is my co-host, Father Malone. Father Malone, how are you this evening?
I'm okay. If you like revivals.
It's like my favorite line in this whole episode, which we'll get to. We are talking Taxi Season 2, Episode 6, Wherefore Art Thou, Bobby? This was written by Barry Kemp, and it was directed, of course, by the director-in-residence, or the resident director, James Burrows. Reminder, we're doing these shows in broadcast order and not in order of filming. We start this episode with the typical B-roll as cabs roll in to the garage on a nice sunny day. Inside, Bobby brings his bookings to Louis and asks if there's any messages. And he gets one message, and to his dismay, he got booked for a commercial. Alex sort of counters to him that generally when you're an actor, a struggling actor, getting a job is a good thing. But Bobby's complaining that it's a commercial, it's a local commercial for suntan lotion, and it's not the kind of work that he wants to do. And Bobby resolves to call his agent to stop doing this kind of stuff. I'm already kind of annoyed because in season 1, we saw him breaking his back to get a job, any job, before the midnight of the anniversary of the pact he made with himself that he was going to become an actor or give it all up. I think it's very superficial of him all of a sudden to start grousing that, oh, this part is beneath me. Why am I taking Did you have the same impression, Father Malone?
Well, this is a remake of that episode, so of course I was thinking about it. And
That's exactly, yeah, I wrote that down, by the way. I totally agree. Go on.
was it not his participation as just a drone in a commercial that prompted him to want to quit in the last episode?
No, that him being in that E.F. Hutton commercial.
Yeah, that's what brings him back to acting?
That was going to be his lifeline that he wouldn't have to quit acting. He was trying to book any job anywhere just so he could make that deadline and not have to quit acting.
Well, obviously the movie Fame hadn't come out yet, so he couldn't have seen that inspirational speech. But the one professor saying, like, look, only 1% of you are actually going to be working. The rest of you are going to be waiters and delivery people, and and of that 1%, like 90% of it is just going to be commercial work. So he's in the 1%. And he's bitching about it. And I get it. If your career isn't skyrocketing, you kind of resent the lower shit that you just have to do to pay the bills. But he should realize it's 1979 and he's getting his face. Oh, it's a local ad, right? Okay. I see his point now even more. If it was a national ad, I would. E.F. Hutton is a national ad. This is for some New York tanning salon?
But it's work. It's paid work. Even something as inconsequential as a local ad. I'm not suggesting he should be doing backflips and thanking his good fortune, but I'm just saying, why respond so disdainfully at the prospect of doing what you want to do, which is be a paid ad? I don't know. It just rubbed me the wrong way.
Yeah.
To lighten things up, we get a Laka sighting. Laka's back, everyone. Louis tells Laka he has a message and he summons him to his cage. And this is total vaudeville. Instead of the customary $1 that Louis gets for a message, he gives Louis a coin. Then do you remember this bit?
Oh, of course. How could I forget this brilliant bit of comedy? We've seen them do this with currency before.
Louis asks what the coin is, and Laka says that it's a kebble. And immediately, like I said, I could call where this was headed. But since Kaufman's involved, I'm game because he can liven it up. So Louis asks what a kebble is, and Laka replies that it takes 270 kebble to make a lift niche. And this keeps going. And then Louis says, what's a lift niche? Back and forth. And finally, Laka tells him the last denomination, 50 lift niche equals a matter. And then Louis says, well, what's a matter? And of course, what does Kaufman say, Father Malone?
I don't even want to. You know the joke, everybody. It's a Bazooka Joe comic, and Laka then cops to it. He's like, I read it in the bubblegum wrapper.
He says, what's the matter? And Laka says, I don't know. What's the matter with you? Vaudeville. And he smiles. The thing that got me.
He's delighted.
Is
he got
his
to
delight.
Joke. Yeah.
Through sheer force of charm, Kaufman made it work for me because he's so happy and so pleased at having given this joke that he read in a bubblegum wrapper. It totally made it worth it. I thought it was great.
Right, but it was a slog to get there, and it needn't have been because it could have just been, what's that? Or that's a matter. What's the matter? What's the matter you? Right, bang, bang, bang. Not 50 kebble go into a Lifschnitz, and this goes into that, and yeah.
It's inelegant, but again, at the end of it, I was chuckling. I thought it was kind of funny. So then Tony enters the garage and he looks like he just came in from a softball game. They're putting Tony in these baseball jerseys with the short sleeves. It's not a good look.
Are you talking about his ringer, his yellow and white ringer t-shirt?
Yeah.
No, I loved that. This whole episode is about yellows and blues. Sincerely. Bobby has a yellow shirt. Danza has a yellow shirt. Elaine and Alex are both garbed in blue.
Tony comes in and he's got with him a Burns lookalike named Steve Jensen. Steve is played by an actor named Michael Horton. Did you recognize him, Father Malone?
I didn't recognize him, but I know he's a prodigious actor. I know he does a lot of voiceover work. He's been in a ton of stuff.
A lot of television, like you said, a lot of voiceover work. But I saw him in this, but I didn't make the connection between Taxi and this movie. He was in 2 Star Trek movies. He was in Star Trek First Contact and he was in Insurrection, both times as Lieutenant Daniels, which he wasn't heavily featured, but he's there. He looks like he does here. I mean, it's the character, you know?
And he's instantly more likable than Burns.
Tony just picked him up from the bus station. Evidently, he's coming to New York to become an actor. And Tony, in his very simple mind, had the bright idea to introduce him to Bobby. Because that's what a child would do. Hey, he says, what are the odds that, a guy comes to New York to be an actor, and I know an actor? Alex's great response is 50-50.
Rieger's performance in this one is somehow better than I've seen him in a long time. And he's been really good the whole time. But I don't know, for some reason, he's really natural here in this episode.
I agree.
He seems looser somehow.
Yeah, well, I think this particular episode calls on him to offer counsel in a lot of ways.
He does that in every episode. For some reason, Judd Hirsch is free and easy in this episode.
So Bobby is introduced to Steve Jensen, and he gives Steve the classic advice when someone says they want to become an actor. Bobby says, don't. It's just, he runs down this whole litany of why it's soul crushing to be an actor. You're getting doors slammed in your face. It's heartbreak after heartbreak, on and on. And then Rieger steps in to explain why Bobby is so upset because he got booked for this terrible sounding local commercial. But what this does, this actually excites Steve. He says, that's great. You're doing it. You're being an actor. That's what you do. And something about his youthful enthusiasm and reaction kind of softens Bobby a little bit. And it inspires Bobby to take Steve out for breakfast or whatever and introduce him to his agent. So he's going to take him out and show him the city a little bit. And I thought that was kind of nice,
Absolutely. So far, it's okay. Setup is kind of lame, but they're muddling through it, and everyone's giving good performances here.
At this point, I was already having flashbacks to that season 1 episode where he's got to get a job or he's going to give up acting forever. It's starting to feel a little bit like that, but we're not there yet.
See, you know what? This is like a sideways aspirational episode, It's not I'm getting the brass ring, getting out of here. It's I'm going to quit everything and just be a cabbie. Meh.
Yeah, a lot of whining. We cut back to the garage and we can see Elaine, Tony, and Alex they're back to playing cards. The last episode, they took up chess, but that didn't stick evidently. But Tony bops in and asks if anyone's seen Steve today. And Alex says to him that they thought that Steve was staying with Bobby until he got his own apartment, which is nice. Bobby has actually taken this guy under his wing. He's letting him stay in his sweet basement apartment till he gets on his feet and finds his own apartment. So that's cool. I took this as a very ominous sign. Bobby expositions that he introduced Steve to his agent, and he's wondering how it went. Bobby keeps saying this was probably a terrible day for Steve. Getting doors slammed in your face are always miserable. So he heads out to do his local commercial. Two of my favorite bits in this episode have nothing to do with anything, and they both involve Andy Kaufman, Latka. So as he's on his way out to his commercial shoot, Latka presents him with this wrapped box. And Bobby says, well, what's this? And Latka replies, goat droppings. Bobby makes the obvious leap and he says, oh, is this because it's good luck in your country? And Latka says, no. And Bobby naturally says, well, why are you giving this to me? And Latka says, I don't want it. He just walks away.
So obvious, of course.
It raises so many questions in one's mind. Number one, why does he have goat droppings? And why has he wrapped it so ornately in a box to present to Bobby? It's great. I love the mystery of it. I love the weirdness of it.
Absolutely. All that effort for something that he just didn't want? Like, let's see. Oh, no, this is a rabbit hole I don't want to go down. The goat dropping.
Soon, Steve comes ambling into the garage. He seems like he's in this daze. He doesn't know where he is. He has this look on his face, this glazed look. And the cabbies press him out of concern. Like, what's going on? How was your day? Everything okay? And he says, yeah, I'm feeling great. I got a job. So the first audition that Steve went on was for an off-Broadway production of Romeo and Juliet. And wouldn't you know it, he scored the lead. He's Romeo. And Romeo and Juliet, off-Broadway, they start in 8 weeks. Of course, they have to throw in a little bit to show how lunkheaded Tony is, because Alex says, well, what's the part? And Steve replies, Romeo.
What play?
Vaudeville.
Oh, I heard of that.
Tony says, well, you must be some great kind of actor, because Bobby's been trying for a break like this for years. And at that point, the penny sort of drops for Alex, and he realizes with everybody else that this news that Steve, first audition out of the gate, he gets this amazing job. This is going to shatter Bobby. This is going to wreck him, because he's been toiling away for years with little or nothing to show for it. When Tony wonders who's going to break the news, naturally, Louis is the one who offers. This is a parallel not to the one where he's set a deadline for himself. This is a remake of the episode where he goes to work for the soap opera.
Yeah.
And then he gets written out of the show. He gets killed off but not before he's already made a production to Louis of saying, like, I'm never coming back to the garage. You're never going to see my face again. So he's got to come with his tail between his legs. And you remember, Louis is so gleeful that it actually moves Alex to violence against Louis. They chase each other around. So
Same thing here.
this is exactly the same. So Louis is just rubbing his hands together like, please let me tell Bobby the bad news because he lives for this stuff. He's begging them, let me give the bad news to Bobby, but Alex is refusing. He says, all right, I'm not going to tell him the news, but you didn't say I couldn't call him. And then this chase ensues where he's trying to get into the cage, right?
Yeah, it's good. It's a really good bit of physical comedy. And you know what I got to say? Here's the thing that reminded me again. I mean, how can we not be reminded of that previous episode we were just talking about? But whenever Judd Hirsch sort of springs up in a sort of offensive way, like to tangle with Louis, I think like of everyone in that garage, he's the one I would want to fight the least. Judd Hirsch seems like he could lay anybody out, man.
I think we've all had that teacher in school who never raised their voice, never really got into it with the kids, but the second they raised their voice even a little bit, because it was such a stark contrast to their normal mode of behavior, you snap to it. To me, that's the brilliance of Alex Rieger here, because he's usually such a very level-headed and easygoing fella. But when he's pushed, when he flips that switch, man, I'm with you. I wouldn't want to tangle with him. He'll kill you.
Yeah, man. And certainly, well, it's not so much him here as Nardo and, more to the point, Tony lifting Louis parallel to the floor, which is a great sight gag. Just them standing there and him clutching the cage, trying to get inside. It's almost like a painting. It doesn't excuse the fact that we've already seen this when Judd Hirsch ripped the grates off of the cage, which is way more effective.
This scene is funny, but there's such an overwhelming sense of deja vu for that first season episode. It really is like a rewrite of that. We go to commercial, we cut back, we see the familiar outside of Bobby's sweet basement apartment.
Oh, man. Looking for some cozy fun.
So the cabbies plus Steve Jensen are all gathered in there. They all have beers. They're waiting for Bobby to come in. You get the sense that they're trying to preemptively put him at ease before they have to give him the news that Steve got this job. And Bobby bounces in, smiling. He's hugging all the cabbies, but it becomes slowly apparent. There's something in the way that it's both the way it's shot, this tight shot of his face, but the way that Bobby is going from person to person.
Yeah, Conaway's great here because the gag is the fucking commercial that he did tanned half his face, so he looks like Batman villain Harvey Two-Face Dent, but they don't feature it immediately. Like you said, it's this little game they're playing with the lighting and everything, but Conaway's full frame turning from left to right, so you can't really something's wrong, you just don't know what until Banta speaks up.
He reminded me of Richard Dreyfuss in Close Encounters when half of his face is sunburned from the lights. Half of Wheeler's face, like you said, has this, it's tanned, and the other half is not. He's moving his head, shaking it left to right. So you see tan, no tan, tan. And you can hear the audience sort of start to catch on to this and laugh. It's a great visual gag that they do. I thought it was really good. And Conaway is a big part of what sells this. As much as the cabbies are trying to ignore the fact that half of his face is dark, Tony, ever uncouth, keeps asking, what happened to your face? And Bobby explains they had to put this lotion on the side of his face and it won't come off. He's tried washing it off and it's there for a while. Bobby expresses his gratitude to everybody because he thinks they're ostensibly there to celebrate that he did this commercial, but really they're all there to soften the blow for when he finds out that this kid got a major part right out of the gate. He gives a special thanks to Steve because he keeps reiterating this point that, boy, after the bad day that you had, Steve, I know you didn't want to, the last thing you want to do is be in this party and da-da-da. Bobby keeps trying to ask Steve about what happened today. But all the rest of the cabbies.
Like Three's Company shit right here. Like, oh, let me get you, Bobby, you want a beer or something? Wait a minute, Bobby. Come on.
Hey, let's do a toast. They keep finding ways to distract him from finding out how Steve's day went. Steve sheepishly finally admits that he had a great day, that he's playing Romeo off Broadway. And this is actually another great little visual bit. I think it was just serendipitous. Bobby hears about this and he freezes for a minute and he takes this big swig out of his beer. And when he puts the beer down, because it had been shaken, the beer just goes everywhere. It just starts coming out, like fizzing right out of the can. I thought it was a great match to his attitude in that moment. What did you think?
The frothing of the can is great, but if you're watching, he's drinking when he's told that the kid got the gig, and he lowers the can and then remembers he's supposed to shake it, so he takes that quick drink to make the can do that. So it looks really unnatural, because here's the thing. If his character, if his reaction after hearing it was to start drinking, then he would have drunk the whole thing. And he doesn't do that. He just does this quick, like, swah, and it's just to shake the can up enough. I watched the scene twice, because I watched the episode twice. And the first time I was like, what was wrong with that? And then second time did it. He missed his cue, HP, but the gag still works.
Yeah, it still works. Bobby then tries to give Steve some encouragement and say, well, this is great. And he tries to rally the cabbies. And the cabbies, again, are all feigning indifference to this news. And that's when Elaine gives that great line reading where he says, isn't this great? He's on Romeo. He's doing Romeo and Juliet. And Elaine says, well, yeah, I guess if you like revivals.
It's like an Altman thing, because like everyone's speaking at once, so there's this cacophony of voices, but hers just sings right out,
According to the Lovey's book, the official Taxi fan guide, Mary Lou Henner takes full credit for that particular line. She came up with that line during rehearsals, and she insisted she's going to be the one to deliver that line. It works wonderfully. It's a great moment.
Best line in the episode.
It is. Bobby goes back over to Steve and he says, oh, it's great. You made it. And he starts hugging him by the shoulders. You made it. You made it. You made it. And he goes from being nervously happy to choking him and saying, you made it, and starts throttling him by the neck. Oh, yeah. I thought it was a fun little transition for Conaway. His face twists into this rictus of anger. And I thought it was a funny little moment.
Two-Face is taking over here. Harvey Dent is no more. Soon the coin will emerge.
So you're carrying the Batman analogy to its final conclusion there.
You couldn't pay me enough to have my face look like that.
That's Tony. What a sensitive guy. We cut back to the garage, and Wheeler is coming in. He's still got half of his face is still tanned. And he asks Louis for a cab, and Louis, you can't help just laughing right in Wheeler's face when he sees this half tan going on. The rest of the cabbies all try to buck Bobby up, but he proclaims that he's not an actor anymore. He says it's all a bunch of luck.
So dramatic.
He's fishing for sympathy. And I find it annoying that he's doing this, because he knows that they're all going to try to cheer him up or convince him not to do it, but he does it anyway. It's dumb.
The modern equivalent is, I'm leaving this Facebook group. Okay.
Yeah,
go.
Bye. By the way, I was going to use that example, but Facebook is not in anymore.
We're very old. We're reviewing Taxi. What are you talking about? That's as modern as we get.
It's like MySpace, when you're going to leave a MySpace page and you say, I'm leaving. Bobby says that he's already left a message for his agent saying as much, that he's quitting acting and he's done. Steve comes in to ostensibly to apologize to Bobby for what happened, but then he asks Alex if he'll run some lines with him. And then Alex sagely suggests that he run lines with Bobby instead. It's dumb, like reverse psychology. A kid wouldn't fall for this. It's dumb.
Yeah, and also he should be rehearsing for the play that starts in 2 weeks with the cast and not here at the garage. What is Steve doing here? Go find an apartment.
It's insulting the way that it's written. It's so obvious what Alex is trying to do that even Tony, The lunkhead knows what he's driving at. I think he even says, "Oh, I know what you're getting at." Steve and Bobby get ready to run this scene from Romeo and Juliet where Romeo fights with Paris and kills him. And after initially Bobby makes a big show of seeming so bored, he's not giving anything to his performance. Steve actually says, "Hey, can you give me a little more? Let's really make this work."
Yeah, it's so, again, this dramatic, petulant thing that Wheeler sometimes does that I really do not like, where he's got a Snickers bar half in, half out of his mouth. He's not even chewing it. He's just mumbling around it like, I'm a dickhead.
He's holding it like a cigar. He's not eating it. The whole point of it is to rouse his acting passion so that he won't quit. Bobby finally gets into the spirit of the performance. I think he even goes off book. He doesn't even need the book anymore. He can just recite it from memory. Their impassioned performance compels the rest of the garage to applaud loudly, which leads to my third favorite Latka moment. And I think this was also done in season 1, if I'm not mistaken, at some point where they're applauding this performance and Latka happens to be walking in and he thinks that they're applauding for him. He says nothing, but he just nods and receives the applause and walks across the garage.
That joke is evergreen. I don't care how many times I see it in how many different shows or how many different situations. Somebody mistaking applause for their own adulation is always hilarious.
Every favorite moment I've had is about Latka, and you could take those out of the episode entirely, and it would not change the episode one bit, except make it less funny.
So you could just watch some special featuring Andy Kaufman instead of this episode.
Oh, 100%. And I would have enjoyed it a hell of a lot more than this. Not to spoil my review.
You wouldn't have gotten to see Bobby Wheeler do his death thing for the fucking 1,000th time in 2 seasons, not even 5 episodes into the season, 6.
Yeah, I could do without his hammy, as he gets stabbed with an imaginary sword and he falls to the ground. I am slain. It's awful.
I expected in my life that people would proclaim that a little bit more. It seemed to me that in every Shakespearean play, when you die, you yell, "You are slain," whether stabbed or not. So I thought that was just a thing we all did.
I don't know. I guess I never gave it much thought,
I'm
but
gonna try to yell, "I am slain" right before I die. If I have the last breath in me, I am slain. Or maybe put that on my tombstone. We've seen him do dying better than this in previous episodes. And here's where it actually counts, because this is supposed to be reinvigorating him in some way. I guess it doesn't actually, though, does it?
it doesn't really, because what happens is he falls to the floor, everybody applauds, and he says to Steve, "Hey, you know what, kid, you're great." Steve's response is, "You can't give up acting." We're led to believe that this performance has affected Steve to the point where now even he thinks that Bobby can't quit acting because it's such an amazing performance that it's an actor is complimenting him on his performance. But in reality, it's not that good of a performance. But then again, neither is Steve Jensen's performance as Romeo, but that's neither here nor there.
That's because everyone's stuck in that 70s kind of leftover from the 60s Romeo and Juliet performance of Shakespeare. Everyone's still doing Shakespeare acting instead of acting in Shakespeare.
I think we probably have Kenneth Branagh to thank for bringing Shakespeare back to the masses, making it more approachable and making the dialogue more sensical to modern audiences. He didn't change the dialogue, but it's the way it's performed was the key there, right? But I think you're right. It's still very Shakespearean. That's what we all suffered through in high school. As I said, he says to Bobby, "You can't quit acting." The real truth of it, he says, is that, look, if he can be that good, if Bobby can be that good and he still can't get a job, then this just proves that acting is nothing but luck. He's actually right.
Yeah.
He's 100% right.
He could have gotten off a bus and walked into an audition and gotten a lead.
The stars did not align for him for whatever reason, and they did for Steve Jensen. It could be his look. It could have just have been that day they were ready for that actor for that part. Bobby is speaking the truth here. It's a crapshoot, no matter how you slice it. Louis can't control himself any longer. This is the same fit of glee and laughter that he couldn't stifle back in that season 1 episode. He bursts out laughing from his cage, and he really calls Rieger on Rieger's transparent scheme to get Bobby to do this scene. He says what's on our mind, which is that was a really lame thing for him to try to do. It was so obvious that it was reverse psychology at work here. Bobby's the one who confronts Louis, which normally we would have expected Alex to be the one to say, that's enough. I've had enough. But Bobby gets up and explains to a chuckling Louis, like Louis can't even keep a straight face during this exchange between the two of them. And he says to Louis that, look, acting is nothing but a bunch of heartbreak. Does Louis know how it feels to have your dream slip away time and time and time again? But then Bobby admits to Louis that he came into the garage that day as a beaten man, but he's found something that's going to get him through all of the hard times chasing his dream to become an actor.
He's found a light. You know what that light is? It's you, Louis. I'm going to make it just to fuck you. Conaway's great here. He could have been histrionic. He's not. He could have been underplaying it. He isn't. He's right in the sweet spot there where he's just telling it like it is. There's all the menace in the world in it with none of it being presented as that. It's fucking good, man. It almost redeems the episode, but it can't possibly.
Jeff Conaway has to do this while Danny DeVito is right across from him. He's laughing his ass off through the whole thing. He can't. It's supposed to be this idea that Louis can't stop chuckling. So Conaway has to get deep down and serious and break it down for Louis. I would have been cracking up because Danny DeVito's right there cracking up. You're right. It almost redeems the previous 26 minutes of the episode, but it doesn't. We don't quite get there. To your point, he basically says to Louis, look, you're the reason that I'm going to keep going. Every time I get beaten down, I'm going to tell myself that someday I'm going to come back and shove everything you've said to me right down your fucking throat. And then he says, well, excuse me, I got to call my agent. So he's going to call the agent back and tell him, I'm not quitting. I'm back.
But then he does this move where he raises the forearm and kicks out the leg simultaneously like a piston, like I'll kick you in the fucking face, Louis De Palma. I'm going to stomp on you. Crunch.
I thought that was Louis's move, though. That's Louis does that. Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. I guess he has done that in the past, hasn't he?
I think that was the echo of Louis doing that move. Like, sucker.
I like it even more.
Yeah.
The last 2 minutes of this episode is really, really good.
Then we have another, what really passes for a bumper where, and this is a very odd bumper, I got to say.
It's a stupid bumper. It makes no sense at all. Suddenly the coffee machine is gone and it's replaced by the candy machine again. Why? Because we need it to be there. And yeah, okay, so Louis, pissed off, like, you know, an animal has to act out and smash something. So he's like, y'all like candy? Well, take this. And he dumps the candy machine over and then half-heartedly stomps on maybe 2 pieces of candy before walking off all triumphant and angry and dismissive of them. But he just gave everybody free candy.
It's not much of a take that to the rest of the cabbies. It's just like, I just overturned this candy machine. I stepped on 2 or 3 candy bars, but the rest are fine. Have at it.
Hey, I'm going to have to pay for this candy machine. The boss is going to freak the fuck out on me. I might lose my job. Now have some free candy. I win.
The only other thing that redeemed this bumper for me, and this is so niche, and I forgive you if you didn't notice this, but I don't know if you remember, in the season 1 episode, Hollywood Calling, you and I had a spirited discussion about an extra that was in the back. I dubbed him something like Captain Marvel.
I thought he was part of the film crew. You thought he was part of the cab company, and I believe you were right in that case.
Well, not only that, but this confirms it, because as Louis is walking off triumphantly after stepping on 2 or 3 candy bars, who's in the background watching all of this take place? Captain Marvel's there.
My God.
He's got the same shirt. He's got the same pants. He's got the same hat. It's the same fucking guy. He's still a cabbie.
So you're just sort of reveling in that right now. I got.
What it tells me is he must have been a co-producer or somebody on the staff, because why would an extra still be there after 1 season's already gone by?
Are you crazy? Have you watched like an entire run of Cheers? Look around that bar. All of those patrons are pretty much the same. And most of these background cabbies we've been seeing forever now. Blonde, leggy pantsuit blonde is there. I've seen Appleman in the background. We've seen a bunch of these people, man.
Lumberjack Appleman.
Yeah.
There was something thrilling in seeing this extra looking exactly like he did the previous season for no good reason. He's just there. I found it delightful. That's the episode. That is Wherefore Art Thou, Bobby. Now we're going to talk yellow lights as we do.
What does a yellow light mean?
Reminder, we grade this episode on a scale from 1 yellow light to 5 yellow lights. 1 yellow light is a terrible Taxi episode. 5 yellow lights is the perfect Taxi episode. And as is our custom, Father Malone, I'll throw it to you. What do you give Wherefore Art Thou, Bobby?
1 yellow light. A poor remake of a previously annoying episode. I'd like to say that there are good things in it, and I think I already have, but I don't need to justify it any more than that. This one was better paced than the previous Banta episode. It moved along at a steady clip. It's just that we've seen all of this before. We've seen it done better. And if they're going to do aspirational episodes, they got to come up with something new other than I'm going to quit and I'm going to quit.
Well, let me ask you a question. You gave the Banta episode 2 yellow lights. You think this episode is worse than the Banta episode?
Yeah. I hadn't seen the Banta episode before. I've seen this one before.
I'm kind of surprised, but I will tell you that I gave this episode 2 yellow lights.
That's because you're frequently wrong, but go ahead.
So my rationale on this, and again, I say this often, but I don't have to explain myself to you, but I will in the interest of our viewers. I think there's some funny stuff with the cabbies and Louis. It's, I chuckled a few times. I love the stuff with Latka, despite the fact that it has nothing to do with the episode itself proper. I agree with you that it's far too similar to some of the episodes we saw in season 1. In particular, the episode called Bobby's Big Break featured Wheeler pushed to the brink of quitting acting by circumstances out of his control. So yes, there are such similarities between those 2 episodes, but all in all, I still think this is slightly below average, if not enjoyable on some of its own merits. So I gave it 2 yellow lights. We're not worlds away, like I always say, but it's worth noting.
Yeah, don't be don't be poorly written and an echo of an earlier episode. That's my ultimate takeaway here. I liked all the Latka stuff too, and I liked that last moment with Conaway, but the rest of it was kind of bad.
Yeah, but you also said you liked Alex in this episode better too. This doesn't.
You're right. I might have to go to 2 yellow lights.
Don't let me convince you. You gave the score you gave it.
Okay, listen, I gave it the 1 because I'm so mad that they wasted our time with the Wheeler episode doing this with Wheeler when we've already seen this with Wheeler. But you know what? The Harvey Two-Face makeup and his performance. You know what? Not even Rieger's performance here. I'm going to go with Conaway's performance. Gets it an extra yellow light. I'm going up to 2. 2 yellow light.
We're in agreement. Perfect. So that will do it for this episode of Night, Mr. Walters. Father Malone, where can people find you when you're not clocked into the garage?
You can hear me over on weirdingwaymedia.com, where I have shows like Dark Destinations, it's a radio drama, and Midnight Viewing, a horror anthology podcast where we review Tales from the Dark Side, and Midnight Viewing Anthologies Attack, where we review all kinds of anthologies. You're
covering Batman on that anthology series, right?
Yeah, we've already covered Almost Got 'Em from season 1, and the next up is Legends of the Dark Knight from season 3. Those are both anthologies within the series where a group of characters get around and tell stories about Batman.
Very cool. Very cool. So for myself, I can also be found on the Weirding Way Network. I have been proud to appear in some capacity on several episodes of Dark Destinations, which you have to catch it if you like good radio drama, good storytelling. Please check it out. You will not be disappointed. I've also been an occasional contributor to things like the Culture Cast. I've also got a Bandcamp site called hpmusicplace.bandcamp.com. Look for some new material there, hopefully soon. Anyway, thanks again for listening. Please feel free to subscribe to the podcast, write a review, or rate us. We'd love to hear from you in any manner that you see fit. So for myself and Father Malone, thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you again next time.
Night, Mr. Walters.
Hello, my name is Kevin Tudor, and I'm one of the 3 hosts of Almost Major, a film podcast dissecting many major indie studios and the films they release. Every week, myself, Charlie Nash, and Bryden Doyle discuss overlooked, forgotten, or bona fide classic indie films via studio-specific miniseries. We've previously covered numerous films from Artisan Entertainment, Lionsgate Films, and New Line Cinema. Titles including The Blair Witch Project, American Psycho, Dogville, But I'm a Cheerleader, Saw, Requiem for a Dream, and Ringmaster, you know, the Jerry Springer film. Anyways, we have a fun time every week, and we hope you will join us. Subscribe to Almost Major wherever you get your podcasts. Now proudly a part of the Someone's Favorite Productions podcast network.